The opening reviews for FNAF are in, and without further ado, let's dive straight into it. So, Five Nights at Freddy's 2, the second movie, releases in around 2 weeks or so on the 5th of December, and there has been a secret screening. Most recently, Dawko released a video about going to see the new FNAF film, and it is very obvious that this film is going to be an improvement, because as of right now, I have not seen any crazy critical problems with this film so far. As without further ado, we're going to go straight in to the first 4 reviews coming from Dawko, Fusion Z Gamer, and I'm pretty sure Raz and JonnyBlox, along with FNAF, so first 5. So we're going to go straight into Dawko's quote. So this is a quote unquote what he says. The pros that the criticisms have apparently been addressed. They flows well from the first film, even for non-fans, and some exceptional Easter eggs, better than the first film without a doubt, and it excites him throughout the entire runtime. And to him, there is no cons. But then again, I'll be always honest. It is very difficult to judge the reviews from people who are associated with the brand. So of course, for those who are going to see this film, judge it by your own accord. Judge your own films. You like it, you like it. You don't like it, you don't like it. Everyone's going to be different. Fusion Z Gamer said, the animatronics look amazing. The voice acting is great. Their kills are better than the first film. And the plot was easy to follow, along with the set design having a good synergy with the game. And again, no cons. They're the first 2 reviews from obviously the 2 YouTubers. However, this is the main review I was wanted to talk about, and that is JonnyBlox. JonnyBlox is one of the main media sources for FNAF news, if not the main one. And he says it's scarier, bigger, and bolder. Genuinely terrifying, genuinely unsettling at several points, and shocked at the PG rating as it's a proper horror film. I cried. There was a scene that really hit me. The pros are clearly bigger and more expensive set design. The characters are pulled right out of the game, actual faithful homages to FNAF 2's gameplays, and a lot of secrets and Easter eggs, along with plenty of lore to dissect and speculate. Although there is the first reviews with cons in here, so there is no time to breathe. There is still some plot holes, but better than the first film, and the general audience may struggle to understand. Now, that is a very key element to the FNAF 1's problems, because every time I've heard someone talk about Five Nights at Freddy's 1, the first film, is that it's very allocated to the fans of FNAF, which of course, as you can see by my office, it's not the problem for me. However, anyone who I've shown the FNAF movie to always has the same reaction, is that, was that even really a horror film? Which is completely valid, because every time I go and watch the first Five Nights at Freddy's film, it's not a horror film, and I will stand by that. It is a children's film. So, of course, with FNAF being released soon, I just hope it actually goes for a horror film, as for JonnyBlox says that it is shocked at a PG rating. So it seems to me that they are going to try push this PG-13 rating to the max, which is obviously what we want to be seeing. However, it is interesting to see how this goes on in terms of the scare factor, because obviously it's going to be bigger, it's going to be bolder, there's a lot more animatronics, a lot more danger, there seems to be a lot more jump scares in here as well, but ultimately, how will that affect the actual story along with the scares? So for me, when it comes to Five Nights at Freddy's 2, when it happens in terms of the scares, there has to be a level of atmosphere, because the first film, and you can say all you want, there is no atmosphere in the first film. I mean, the entire first game has lived on to this day because of how it is perfect at atmospheric horror, and that's a fact. There's no other way of saying that. So for me, when it comes to the first film, when you watch it continuously and you realize that, and you decide to pick at it piece by piece and really, delve into what was wrong with that film, there is no atmosphere for a game series that is revolved around atmosphere. However, going into the last review, which is obviously Razzbowski, says, I'm in complete shock at how good that film was. It was genuinely perfect. It's so full of everything. It's got a bit of something for everyone. Afton is unbelievable. They have done him justice. Now, that is one thing I'm going to judge this film very harshly on, because in my opinion, the FNAF 1 movie very much heightens in terms of quality when William Afton's on screen. I mean, the scene with him and Mike in the office under Steve Raglan, then of course the last scene with him in the yellow rabbit suit was amazing, and that's what it should be. And so when it comes to this film, we've seen the trailers, there's a lot more of Afton in flashback form, and of course as the yellow rabbit, not withered down. So it's going to be very interesting to see how they, go about using him as a character. So, of course, the pros here are plenty of actual jump scare moments, so much lore that clears up questions, animatronics are explained very well and look perfect, very serious and mature themes, lots of violence and aggression. The marionette is done very, very well, all voice actors do it very well, including Megan Fox. However, the cons are some characters are overshadowed, which to me was always going to be the case. When you have this amount of characters in here, you have William Afton in flashbacks, you have Henry in here, you have Charlie, you have the other kid that Charlie seems to be wanting to protect in that flashback sequence, you have Vanessa, you have Mike, you have Abby, then you have all of the animatronics of the toys, the Mangle, Marionette, and Balloon Boy. There is a lot of characters in here, so therefore, someone's going to have to take a fall, and in me, I think there'll be a few death scenes in this film from important characters, whether it's Henry maybe, whether it's Vanessa, I don't know. However, another person I wanted to go into's review is FNAF. Now, I love John's videos, they're really in-depth, they're really great, but of course, it's very difficult to take reviews in terms of not having any cons. So that is something that I wanted to make this video about, is that when you see these reviews, you have to understand that when these really popular people are making videos on it, of course, are around FNAF, it is very, very intriguing to see that there is no cons here. Now, that is something that is also a big issue, because if no one's seeing any problems with the film, to me, I feel like there is going to be cons, and that is something I've always had. Whenever I've been really hyped up for a film and someone's saying, oh, it's the best film ever, it's the best film ever, there will be problems. It's not going to be the most perfect film. I mean, if it doesn't have any issues, I will be swinging around dancing of how happy I would be. However, I just find it very difficult to think that there will be no actual problems. But to me, I think it's very, very interesting. And of course, JonnyBlox is the only person of this group so far who have given any sort of cons, and that's too fast-paced to little to no breaks. Now, that can be a pro or a con depending on how you want to see this film. I mean, do you want a really high-paced action film? I mean, yeah, you could want that. Or is there something about this leading to, again, there's going to be little amounts of atmosphere? Now, that's something that was very, very, very scary to me, because when it says it's too fast-paced, are we going to be jumping like the home sequence to Vanessa's flashback to the location? The pacing of that is going to really affect the story's continuity, because if we're going from story to flashback, it's going to be very similar to how people thought about the dream sequences in the first film, which, in my opinion, if you took those sequences out with the first film, you're looking at maybe a quarter of the runtime. So in terms of that, it's going to be very, very interesting to see how that goes. However, another thing I'm noticing in the pros list is the emotional depth in the story. Now, that's something that's really intriguing, because I think Vanessa's going to perish in this film. I'm just saying, I think Vanessa's going to die. Someone in the main cast is going to die here, which 100% is going to happen, whether it's Henry or Vanessa. Those are the two I'm more leaning towards, because it has to set up FNAF 3, right? It has to set up FNAF 3, as William Afton, also known as Matthew Lillard, called it mano a mano, which is man-to-man, 1v1, which is obviously Mike and Afton. I mean, it has to be. So whether it's Abby dying, that would be insane. But then again, it seems to me that it's going to be very intriguing to see what actually goes down here. So if I scroll more down on Twitter, you have a lot of people saying that there's going to be a lot more praise for this second film. Now, it's very, very interesting. However, I've seen some people, this person here says the FNAF 2 movie is looking like it might have a very weak story. Not going to lie, obviously fire visuals and much better horror, but if the Michael Afton twist is true, then the story is likely going to be bad, prioritizing cheap fan service over good writing, so the first film suffered too. Now, obviously, this could be someone who hasn't actually seen the film, or is this someone giving an opinion? However, I agree. I mean, to me, if Michael Afton is in this film, which will be a very big plot hole, if you ask me, because, you know, when you go over Vanessa's character in the first film, to magically appear Michael Afton, you're kind of like, huh, well, that's kind of came out of the blue, which is something I'm very, very intrigued about, but also something I'm kind of holding back a little bit. But ultimately, so far, so good for FNAF 2. The first 5 reviews are also something, again, people associate with the brand. Dawko is obviously mates with Scott. Likewise, they were all invited to see this film. Now, it is going to be very, very interesting to see that how the actual, public think of this film, because the public reviews will be coming out very, very soon, within the next week or two, probably even the next week. So it'll be very interesting to see in a week's time to see what the reviews are coming out, and if they're still positive, it'll be very, very interesting. Because, as you can see here, it says Critical Overlord says Five Nights at Freddy's review embargo lifts December 4th. Now, I'm just going to say this. from someone who has studied film near enough their whole life, if a movie lifts their review embargo the day before release, is never a good sign. That is something that is very, very risky, because if you have bad reviews from a week leading up to the film, obviously no one's going to see it. So if they are scared for the reviews, like if they know the reviews are coming out and they're scared about it, and that's why they're doing it the day before, that's a very, very dangerous thing to think about this film. So again, that's a purely chance thing, but a lot of films who have very, very bad reviews or have not been very totally liked have suffered from this embargo being the day before. But of course, that's just by chance. It could be wrong, I hope it's wrong, but ultimately the first reviews are out for FNAF 2, they look good, but then again, have your own opinion on the film. Go and watch it December 5th, go and check it out. No matter if the reviews are bad or good, go and see it in the theater, support the film, support movie theaters, and then give your own opinion. That is one thing we have to stop doing, is relying on reviews. Oh, I'm not going to see that film because it has bad reviews. Stop it. Go and see the film if you want. If you're interested in it, go and see it and make your own opinion, because that is what film's all about, varying opinions. But of course, thank you all so much for watching. Let me know what you think will happen in Five Nights at Freddy's 2. Will it be a success? Will it be as big as the first film? Because that's a very intriguing conversation. But ultimately, that's all we have for today's video. So I hope you have enjoyed. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. Of course, let me know what you think of FNAF 2's trailer as well. I'm very intrigued to see what people are thinking in terms of the tones. But as always, I hope you all have the most fantastic day. Stay safe.